Go back to para 4.7 or clause 4.7 of the procurement rules, which places a requirement on officials to consider the economic benefit of the procurement to the Australian economy. I note that Minister Andrews made a comment at the press club where she said that our government changed procurement guidelines in 2017 for contracts worth more than $4 million to ensure officials examine and understand the wider benefits offered by alternate providers, and also made a comment about supporting Australian manufacturing. Is it the government's intention to pay more attention to this particular clause such that when there are tenders on foot, officials are required to examine what the economic benefit is to Australia in association with the procurement?
Well, firstly, all entities have to conduct their procurements, like I should say all non-defence entities across the Commonwealth have to conduct their procurements consistent with the procurement guidelines. And the procurement guidelines, I mean, you've just quoted them at me, and you've given me another copy of the procurement guidelines which I issued. And I appreciate that in the context of this question. The government.
Why are you so nice to Senator?
The government at our level is not involved in individual
Pay attention,
tenders.
Chair.
But the government at our level isn't and shouldn't be involved in tender decisions. I mean, these are things that are done at the entity level.
But respectfully, Minister, you as a leader in government can direct officials. I put it to you.
Well, I won't direct them on procurements.
No,
I've issued guidelines which include the bit that you like.
I understand that, but I put it to you, they're not following those guidelines.
No, because they're guidelines, that's why. That's why
They're not following those guidelines, and if they were, this could make a huge difference post COVID-19. You've got the Minister saying buy Australian. Now, I accept this. This
is why I thought you were asking me before to change the guidelines. Well,
no.
But you're taking it to another level. I mean, so I believe that entities across the Commonwealth are conducting procurements consistent with the guidelines. If you've got specific circumstances in which you say they haven't, I'd be interested to pursue to review those.
Well,
but
let me just make
this
point.
point.
Notice.
Like we cannot take it to that next level. That your line of questioning that you're pursuing seems to imply, because we are a trading nation, we're an exporting nation. The global market is significantly larger than the domestic market here in Australia. And if we were to make decisions that take it to across that line, beyond what is in the procurement guidelines, which I take out of your line of questioning you would like us to do, then we could potentially be harming Australian exporters.
This does not ask for just Australian. If you can ask every tenderer, whether they be Japanese, German, Australian, US, Chinese, how many jobs does your solution create in Australia? How much capital investment does your solution have in Australia? How much supply chain activity do you generate as a result of this tender? It is not discriminatory in terms of...
And the rule that I've put in place is that for in addition to the value for money considerations, for procurements above $4 million or above $7.5 million for construction services, that officials are required to consider the economic benefit of the procurement to the Australian economy. And that this policy operates within the context of relevant national and international agreements and procurement policies to which Australia is a signatory, including free trade agreements and the Australia and New Zealand government procurement agreement. Now, that is, I mean, it is, the rule is there, the rule is clear, and individual departments are expected to comply by those rules through in the course of their procurements, and I have no reason.
Minister, I put a range of questions on notice just after these rules came into place, asking for how does each department, in a number of specific procurements, how did you make that assessment? And I came up with blanks. In South Australia, the government actually allocates this assessment in relation to economic benefit to Australia or to South Australia to a different department than the procuring department. So it is an objective assessment. Is that something your government would consider doing post-COVID?
We have issued the procurement guidelines the way they are, and I'm sure that the conversation in relation to government procurement, I'm sure the discussion in relation to government procurement will continue between you and I over the next few months and years.
Well, I put it to you, most Australians want government contracts, wherever possible, directed at Australian entities. I understand that may break a rule, but if you actually consider
destroy our export markets.
Okay, well, but if you follow the rules as they are written, it doesn't discriminate against a
That is why
different
the rules
supplier.
are written the way they're written.
Exactly right, but they're not being applied.
Well,
That's the problem.
I don't accept that.
I can see that Minister Andrews has taken great note of this, and that's a really good thing. And I just wonder why, you could simply issue a directive to say apply more attention to para 4.7 of the Commonwealth procurement rules and conduct some objective assessments against entities when they tender, doing some compliance checking against that. But I suggest you haven't done that, Minister.
Well, I have issued the Commonwealth procurement rules, but I do not get involved in individual procurements in entities across the Commonwealth.
What about Finance's role in ensuring compliance with your directions?
Well, and I think, Senator Gallagher, I've been very accommodating of areas that are not related to Treasury and the ATO, because I've got a direct responsibility myself.
It fits within the
personally.
scope of the inquiry, the
Sure.
committee's inquiry, Senator.
Sure, but I'm just making the point that we're going well beyond the brief of this hearing this afternoon, but we will continue
Within the
to
terms of
assess
reference.
to what degree improvements can be made to those rules. But let me say this again: the opportunity for Australian businesses employing Australian workers to sell Australian products and services into the global market is significant. And the risk to that opportunity, if we were to impose restrictions on suppliers that are able to provide better value for money, it could be quite severe, and you've got to weigh that up, and it's a matter of having the right balance. And
So
we do
modelling
believe
done on that? So modelling on that.
Your-
All
your-
right, thank
Your
you,
letter to me
colleagues.
talks about a level playing field for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator
Thank you, Chair.
Patrick. Thank you, Senator Wish.